After a crazy week in football, we've just seen the Arizona Cardinals embarrass the Dallas Cowboys. The Indianapolis Colts upset the Baltimore Ravens. Matt Gay kicking, what, 4 50-plus yard field goals, 353 and 4 at 54 yards. The Miami Dolphins dropping a 70 bomb. A lot of fans were mad they didn't go for the three-pointer, the field goal to break the record, but it's a respect thing, and it's time to get into our power rankings for Week 4. Few disclaimers: my power rankings are not predictions. They are week by week. I do them every single week because they change every single week. What's the point of doing power rankings every week if you're going to predict with them? That's what predictions are for at the beginning of the season. So, as you know, and you'll see examples of this. I have a few teams pretty low because that's how they're playing. That's how bad they're playing. And, usually it changes. It's week 4. This is when things start to get a little more clear. We really start to know what's going on. And as I said last week prior to our week 3 power rankings, you really, week 3 is when you think is when you think you have a gauge on these teams. All of a sudden, you get a few slaps in the face and you're like, yeah, and they make you question yourself. So let's not waste much more time. I want to get into our power rankings. Let me give her that thumbnail so that's not in the way. All right, so at number 32, we have the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have been absolutely horrible. They were embarrassed by the Packers in Week 1. They kept it close with the Buccaneers in Week 2, and then once again they get absolutely obliterated by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who were struggling offensively. And the Bears kind of proved to us why that's the worst defense, and why their offense isn't getting going. Their offensive line can't block anybody. It's just the Chicago Bears is playing like the worst team in the NFL currently. Number 31, I have the Denver Broncos. Not looking good. Week 1 you kept it close with the Raiders. Yeah, I thought that Week 1 loss versus the Raiders maybe wasn't that bad. As you see, we have the Raiders at 30, but the Broncos at 31. This is versus the Commanders. They were up 20, 21 points at some point, and they lose. The Commanders come back, and then you just let the Miami Dolphins drop 70 points on you. So it's looking like that the Broncos are that they should be ready to go into a full rebuild. They need it. They may have some good pieces in place here and there, but I think it's about time for the Broncos just to shut it down and say, hey, we need to move on. We need to start fresh. We need to, even though they gave up all that draft capital for Russell Wilson, so they're kind of forced to try and do their best with him. But as you see, he's not, Russell Wilson's better than last year, but this offense is still stale. And a lot of people thought that Sean Payton coming in, that was going to be the magic touch, that was going to be the difference. And so far, that has not been the case. Number 30, you have the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are being the Raiders. They get a few explosive plays off here and there, but first week they beat the Broncos. Second week they get blown out by the Bills, and then the third week, you lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seemed like Kenny Pickett had his not really a breakout game, but Kenny Pickett had a decent game, and that offense is very inconsistent, very big plays, far in between. Can't run it well with Josh Jacobs. The Raiders moved down 4 spots to 30. Number 29, Carolina Panthers. I don't understand. The quarterback play even was a little more consistent, was a little more better with Andy Dalton in there, but that's just because Bryce Young is young and he's still learning. But no different in terms of pressure. Both quarterbacks were getting killed all day long. Both quarterbacks pressured all day long, and that doesn't really enable them to stand in that pocket, maybe step up and get a throw in there and zing that throw in there. It's just, the Carolina Panthers have not played well. And, their defense can be decent, but their offense, not really much there. You need a few guys to step up in the offense. They haven't done so. The offense line isn't great. Coaching isn't great. Frank Reich has proven to be the same as he was in Indianapolis. Number 29 is where the Carolina Panthers belong. Number 28, Tennessee Titans. This may be a little low for the Tennessee Titans, but that win versus the Chargers is holding them up, so maybe they should be up a couple more spots. But honestly, they lost a close game to the Saints, and now they just got absolutely embarrassed by the Browns. So I think it was fair to move the Titans down quite a bit. you do have Ryan Tannehill. He's not playing great ball. Doesn't have an offensive line to block for him. The run game is not nearly as effective as it was. The past couple of years. Offensive line is pretty bad. One of the worst offensive lines in the league. And then on top of that, you don't have many weapons outside of Hopkins. You need someone else to step up. Hopkins playing really well, and Treylon Burks got a pass or two, but you still need someone else to step up in a big way. Chris Moore had that one really awesome catch on the sideline. Seems like they really like attacking the sideline. It just doesn't seem that the Titans are gonna really be making any noise this year, and they fall all the way down to 28 here. Number 27 with the New York Giants. Moving them down quite a bit. They played a good San Francisco 49ers team, but they really never had a shot in that game. You'd say at some point, yeah, the Giants were keeping it close, but it never felt like it. It never felt like it was close. The 49ers were converting third and longs nonstop. The Giants could not get off the field, even on those third and longs. And it was a lot of screen plays, too, and where the 49ers secured those third and longs that they converted. So, that offensive line, they have some playmakers, and, they have a few nice pieces, a few good players here and there, but none of it's really amounting to success. This team is very predictable on offense and defense, and that is what I think their downfall is. You know what Wink Martindale is going to do? He's going to blitz. He's going to play a lot of man coverage, show you a lot of exotic looks, a lot of disguises, and it's very predictable. When you play certain offenses, it's not going to work well. And we saw that versus the Niners. They had a field day. Kittle had a really good day. Even the front has been inconsistent. We were expecting Kayvon Thibodeau to take the next step. Maybe Evan Neal to play a little better than he did last year. Evan Neal's looked absolutely horrible. And, they did have quite a few injuries, so that's understandable. We do have Saquon out, but even before Saquon was out, this team wasn't playing great. Yeah, they had to make that comeback versus the Cardinals, but that's a game that they really shouldn't have won, but they did, and they earned it. But at the end of the day, they shouldn't have been down 21. However much they were down to the Cardinals by. Now, maybe that doesn't look as horrible considering the Cardinals just beat the Cowboys, but it's still early. Crazy stuff happens. And that is why the Arizona Cardinals are up 5 spots at 26. When you beat one of the best teams in the league, you're going to move up quite a few spots. And the Arizona Cardinals absolutely earned that right. They earned that respect to move up. It's just, they put a beating on the Cowboys. And when you beat a really good team, that, when everyone knows it's a really good team, and the Cowboys are a good team. They did lose Trayvon Diggs, and but that's no excuse to losing to one of the worst teams in the league. But the Cardinals move up 5 spots. They find a way to get it done. We've always seen weird things happen in week 3. Being a Colts fan, I saw the Colts beat the Chiefs last year in week 3. They just beat the Ravens in week 3. Now we'll see what the rest of the season holds, but I don't really expect the Cardinals to continue to string together wins and be a good football team. I've seen some good play from Joshua Dobbs, and it seems like the Cowboys really struggling against quarterbacks that can run the football, that can take off. And that's what man coverage, blitzing, that's when that man coverage fails. All right, next row. I know I kind of already had them on there. That was a graphic fault on my end. Number 25, the New York Jets. They're just not playing well. I think they have a lot of talent, but it doesn't matter what I think. These teams ultimately decide where they go in my power rankings. I don't decide, they decide. So the New York Jets at 25, down 10 spots from 15. It's just, they did keep themselves in that game. Towards the end, they had a chance. I don't know why I have them plus 10. They should be minus 10. But the New York Jets, we have that one nice win in week 1 versus Buffalo. Week 2, you get beat pretty good by the Dallas Cowboys, and then you come into week 3 and you had a few chances to win that football game, but you ultimately can't do it. And the New York Giants are moved all the way down to 10. They're just, the offense isn't there. The defense can only do so much. Defense can put up points, but regardless, the Jets are all the way down here at 25. Really high expectations for this team, and it was very unfortunate for Aaron Rodgers to go down. They have a good football team. They have weapons. They have playmakers. And they would have been one of the better teams in the AFC. But you know what? Should have, would have, could have. And now you move on. Number 24, Minnesota Vikings moved down 1 spot. This is probably the best 0-3 team. But at the end of the day, they're losing. They're 0-3. They can't finish the game. They can't find a way to win games. They go down early against the Eagles, and they have to dig themselves out of a hole. Ultimately, they cannot. Against the Buccaneers, they turned the ball over quite a bit, and Baker Mayfield, all it took was a couple of clutch plays by Baker Mayfield to put it away. That game shouldn't have been as close as it was. The Vikings actually outplayed the Buccaneers. They should have won with those turnovers and these little mistakes here and there. Questionable. And the Vikings last year, they were what? They won 11, 12, 13 games in one-score games. And now this year, they're 0-3 in one-score. I believe they're all one-score games. You're 0-3, and, you had multiple chances there, too, towards the end of the game. You were on the goal line, the 1-yard line for a couple plays. You couldn't punch it in there. And, they're struggling with turnovers. And Kirk Cousins, listen, Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback. There's only so much he can do. He can't play defense. He can't, he has very good weapons. He can't block for himself. He's under a lot of pressure. Doesn't really have a run game. It's kind of just a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. That's all you really got on that team because the defense, Harrison Smith, it's looking like it's time for him to hang it up. He's just not looking like himself. But the Vikings down here, number 24, number 23, the Houston Texans move up 7 spots. All around a dominating victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was impressive. C.J. Stroud has been the best rookie in the NFL. He's been the best rookie quarterback, and it hasn't even been close. We're seeing the C.J. Stroud that we saw in the Georgia Bulldogs game. That's the C.J. Stroud that we're seeing. They're letting him play loose. They're letting him play how he wants. They're letting him do what he needs to do. And, a lot of people will make excuses for the other quarterbacks not playing as well with better offensive lines. I don't know why you're still making an excuse there. C.J. Stroud is playing with one of the worst offense lines in the league. He does have some really nice weapons. Nico Collins is a nice, reliable target. Is a nice young and upcoming target. You have Tank Dell, who seems like C.J. Stroud's favorite target so far. Robert Woods, who is formerly a very good Los Angeles Rams receiver, just moved on, and you know what? He's got good weapons. He's got Dalton Schultz, a very good tight end, very good, reliable tight end. Brevin Jordan can make big plays. I love Brevin Jordan. I'm so happy to see him making a few big plays and catching that touchdown. Houston Texans move up to 23, move up 7 spots. When you dominate like that, you are going to move up quite a few spots. You beat, which I believe I had the Jaguars at 9 or 10. You're all the way down to 30. You dominated on all 3 phases of games. You move up quite a few spots. Number 22, you have the Los Angeles Rams. They are down 3 spots. They kind of looked like the Rams that we expected them to look like in the second half. First 2 games, Rams were looking pretty good. We were pretty impressed, and overall they were looking much better than we anticipated them to be. But in the second half, Matthew Stafford, being a little risky with the ball, not taking care of the ball, as much as he needs to. Although I do think Matthew Stafford is still a very high end quarterback. One of the few quarterbacks that doesn't really run a lot, but he can take over the game with his arm, with his mind. He can also lose you the game because of how many interceptions, turnovers he throws. He does put the ball in danger quite a bit, but we did see this defense start to struggle, in that second half, and it seemed like the Bengals were starting to pick up and beat themselves in that second half. So maybe just click for the Bengals and start to unravel for the Rams, and those are 2 teams going in the directions that we expect them to be heading into. Number 21, the Indianapolis Colts up 6 spots. Very good defensive game. Really impressed with the defense there. The offense needs to find ways to make more big plays and get things going more because you're not always going to win football games off of 4, 5, 53-yard field goals. It's not going to happen. And you did play a really beat up Baltimore Ravens team. Regardless, they did pretty well. They played great defense. Lamar Jackson struggled. Defensive line's getting tons of pressure. Linebackers are playing great. Michael Pittman had a really nice catch down the stretch. Indianapolis Colts move up 6 spots. It did beat, I believe I had the Ravens at 6 or 7. So they were down pretty low. They were down at 27, move up to 21, 6 spots. Couldn't move the bump anymore. They still have, a lot to prove. They have a lot to go through yet. I'm not sure if this team will be able to pull out wins like that. Their schedule is favorable in a way. But Colts are up 6 spots. They still have a lot to prove. Long way to go. Anthony Richardson coming back next week, hopefully from concussion. Number 20, Washington Commanders. They're down 4. I mean, they were absolutely demolished by the Buffalo Bills. They cannot hang with the big boys yet. We saw them win the first two games. We saw them beat the Cardinals. We saw them come back against the Denver Broncos. And we're like, okay, Sam Howell's looking pretty good. Maybe the Commanders are figuring out a little bit. They go on and they play a contender. They play one of the big boys, one of the a top 5 team on this list currently, top 5 team in the NFL, and we really see who you are. And the Bills are just a very good football team. They're one of the best football teams in the NFL. They're picking up some steam after that week 1 loss. You're like, yeah, nah, that's not gonna stand with us. That's not gonna fly. So the Commanders moved down 4 spots. Sam Howell, 4 interceptions, offensive line can't block for anything. I think Sam Howell can be a good quarterback. Just had no time to throw. He does have good weapons, but absolutely no time to throw. And that Bills defense it's a very good defense. Number 19, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I still think the Buccaneers are a better football team than we thought coming into the year. They're just going to be certain games where, there's going to be games they win and you'll be like, how? Then they're going to lose games and it's going to be like, yeah, you got beat pretty bad. And that's what happened versus the Eagles. Baker Mayfield, inconsistent. Mike Evans still making big plays. Mr. Consistency. Chris Godwin on the other side making a few nice plays as well. The defense doing what it could do. The defense did their job. The offense could not do their job. They kept the game close in the first half, second half. Eagles started to look like themselves a little bit. Jalen Hurts making some incredible throws, but Hurts still struggling a little bit, but we'll talk about the Eagles in a little bit. Buccaneers moved down 1 spot to 19. New England Patriots move up 3 spots to number 18. The New England Patriots have, I think they were the best 0-2 team, but you still had 2 losses for a reason. You did beat the Jets there. It was looking a little scary. Wasn't sure if the Jets should have, really won that one. You can't say that. But the New England Patriots were giving the Jets a few chances to hang in there. They couldn't put the game away against, Zach Wilson and offense. It's just not very that threatening. And the Patriots defense is great. It's one of the better defenses in the league. Christian Gonzalez has been absolutely phenomenal. He's been the best rookie cornerback. Very good. And it's not like he hasn't played anyone. He was shadowing Garrett Wilson. He was he was playing against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle the second game. Week 1, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. He's played some pretty big competition, yet he's still looking like one of the best young cornerbacks in the league, and at that, as a rookie. Patriots move up to 18. We'll see how the offense continues to improve if they could. They do have Bill O'Brien, much better offensive-minded coach a much better offensive mind than Matt Patricia. So we'll see, but right now the Patriots belong at 18. Los Angeles Chargers move up 5 spots to number 17. So you may be asking yourselves, why are the Chargers this low? They could be so good. They could be so good. Could is the key word. This is not prediction. This is right now. And right now, the Chargers did beat the Vikings, and, they did move up 5 spots. They're just other teams that were supposed to move down, and just the way the board fell. There were many times where the Chargers got very fortunate. Now, the defense didn't make big plays in big moments. We didn't see the defense do that in the last 2 weeks. In the first 2 weeks, the defense, big plays and lost a game. And, you could kind of argue that the defense kind of won the Chargers this game. For some reason, Brandon Staley went for it on 4th and 20 instead of making the Vikings have to go all the way down the field. I get it. You had 2 minutes left. Your defense isn't that great, but going for it on your own 20, at some point, you got to kind of go out there and try and trust your defense. You have Joey Bosa, and then they have a rookie who's playing really well. I don't know how to say his name, and I can't really remember it fully, but he's been a really good rookie. He's been making a big-time difference. But Justin Herbert doing what he could do, and it's not Justin Herbert failing the Chargers. It's Chargers failing Justin Herbert. But this game, they finally get in the winning column, and maybe one they shouldn't have, but they did. That's all that matters. They won, maybe moving up 5 spots for maybe just shouldn't have winning the game, but they ultimately did it. The defense did their job. They found a way. Then number 16, we have the Atlanta Falcons. They are down 3 spots. Very disappointing game. I actually thought the Falcons had a good chance to win this, and maybe it's looking like Desmond Ridder isn't the answer for the Falcons. So I think the Falcons have a very good football team. They do, and I think they are maybe a quarterback away. They have a very good defensive line. They have a good cornerback in AJ Terrell. They made some few additions in the secondary. You have Jesse Bates. Their defensive line getting lots of pressure. They could stop the run. They could run the ball really well. They have weapons, in terms of passing the football. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Matt Collins, and you could even throw Bijan Robinson to that mix. He's very good at catching the football. It's just, a matter of fact, if can Desmond Ritter take the next step? Can Desmond Ritter start making better decisions? Can he? Because he hasn't looked great. He's still young, still got a lot to learn. But so far, it's not looking like Desmond Ritter is the guy. And I feel like the Falcons are just a quarterback away from being a very dangerous football team. Number 15, Green Bay Packers move up 5 spots from number 20 to 15. Very impressive comeback win there. There were a few times late in that game. He did throw the ball up trying to get a few PIs, and they got them. You're not always going to get those PIs, so having to rely on those PIs to win the football. I mean, they still have to get the ball in the end zone. They did. Romeo Doubs had a beautiful touchdown catch. I would like to see Jordan Love play a little better. I do think he played really well. He could run the ball. He could pick up the first on the ground. I will say, I see Jordan Love kind of throw. The ball placement isn't great, and he needs to work on his ball placement, getting the ball in front of the receiver, in the right spot, so the receiver doesn't have to stop and reach down or reach back, or, nonetheless, Jordan Love has been doing good, and he kicked it up a notch, and he did what he needed to do when it was most important. So the Packers move up 5 spots. Number 14, the New Orleans Saints. You would argue the Packers just beat the Saints, but the Saints shouldn't move down that far, and the Packers shouldn't have moved up that much. And that's the thing. Just because another team beats another team doesn't necessarily mean that team is going to be above the other team. So the New Orleans Saints at 14, still above the Green Bay Packers. I know a lot of you guys aren't going to like that, but it just didn't make sense to move the Saints down anymore and move the Packers up. The Saints have a good defense. Offense has been very, very stagnant, very underwhelming. And we'll see if the Packers can be consistent and a perfect example. The Falcons beat the Packers, but it's just the way the board falls. So, they can't really get the offense going. Really bad that you blow the, what was it, 17 or 18? It was a 17-point lead. The Packers ended up with 18 winning it. But blowing a 17-point lead, I don't care who you're playing. It was mainly in the fourth quarter. Well, it's not really ideal. It's not gonna look good. Number 13, Jacksonville Jaguars moved down 4 spots. It's just the issue with the Jaguars is they're getting dominated in all phases of the game by the Houston Texans, a team that I had at number 30 versus 9. Trevor Lawrence is inconsistent. This team as a whole is inconsistent. The special teams is not looking good. The defense did not do very good. Come on, you can't be getting beat by the Texans that bad. You're a talented team, but Trevor Lawrence is so inconsistent. Trevor Lawrence, I feel like he's forcing it to Calvin Ridley. That's what I'm seeing. When I rewatch this game and I'm rewatching some games, I know Trevor Lawrence is really trying to force it into Calvin Ridley's hands. He's really trying to give Calvin Ridley the ball. And obviously it's not working. He threw a really bad interception right to the Texans. Trevor Lawrence just, in his Jaguars team, is just not looking as good as we thought they would. Now, when we see Trevor Lawrence turn it up, we know the Jaguars are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. The issue is, this team is one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL right now. And you're not going to beat the great teams. If you're going to lose to the Texans 17, by what was it, 37-20? Something like 37-24, 27, or something like that. When you're going to get completely dominated all through phases of the game by the Houston Texans, which, I think the Texans are a very good football team. From the start of the year, I've been saying the Texans are much better than people think, and I can absolutely see the Texans rising up this list as the year goes on. They're one of the best young teams in the NFL. But the Jaguars still should not have lost this game. You have a quarterback who's, a couple years into it. Offensive line playing very poorly. Cannot protect Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence on top of it is forcing it. He's not making good decisions, not, as accurate as you liked him to be. There's a lot that this Jaguars team is not doing right, and when they're doing it right, they're one of the better teams, but they can't stay consistent. Or 12, Pittsburgh Steelers are up 2 spots. So, do I think the Steelers are a very good football team? Defensively, yes. I still think the offense is very questionable. It's very stagnant. You should have had a very good offensive game versus the Raiders, and it was a decent game. Could have been much better. The Raiders have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and I expected this to be a game where Kenny Pickett really came out and started to maybe, break out a little bit. And he had a decent game. He had a pretty good game. But was it, you did play one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and it's going to be, the Steelers are going to be really good against matchups that are good against them. When they're going to play a good defense, and, a mediocre offense, they're going to struggle. Like a team like the Patriots. If they play a team like the Patriots, I expect them to lose that game 8 out of 10 times because I don't have confidence in the offense to put up points against a very stout defense. I think the Steelers are very matchup based this year. If they have good matchups all year long, they will win. But if they have bad matchups, they're playing against, let's just say a half decent defense and a half decent offense. The Steelers are still going to struggle to win those games. But when they're playing a team with a very bad defense and, maybe a decent offense, they're most likely going to win those games because, and the reason why I said 8 out of 10 times versus a team like the Patriots is because those 2 times the defense will win you the game. Those 2 times it will. But when you're playing a better team, they have great defense and a great offense. They're all around a great team. All around great, not all around just good. You can't count on your defense to win those games. And TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Minka, you have so many playmakers on the defense. Defensive line, the secondary, and they're going to get turnovers. But the offense has to be able to start capitalizing on them the best they can. When they play some of the better teams, let's say even if they play a team like the Raiders, well, a team, that has a defense as bad as the Raiders, and then they play an offense that's the best in the league, they're going to lose because the Steelers' offense isn't going to be able to keep up. They aren't going to be consistent enough. I'm not sure if Kenny Pickett can win that duel right now. I'm not happy with Pickett. He has happy feet. He's, he panics when he's under pressure. He doesn't have any time to throw the ball. On top of that, he hasn't had, Deontay Johnson. Calvin Austin is speedy, and as you've seen, when he catches the football, he's one of the better in the league. But that's kind of the issue with him. He struggles to catch the football. But Steelers are down here at 12. Very good defensive team, could take the ball away from you, but offensively, they are not consistent. Number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals move up 6 spots. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals, man, in that second half versus the Rams, they really kicked it up a notch, and they really, it's kind of like the good old Bengals we know. They, the first 2.5 games, they're playing absolutely horrible, dog crap. They get embarrassed by the Browns. The Browns have an elite defense, and it seems like the Browns are just starting to pick up now. But week 2, you play the Ravens. The offense looked better, and then the defense really struggled. But now the Bengals defense really picked it up against Matthew Stafford. Now Matthew Stafford is more of an aggressive quarterback. He is going to put the ball in harm's way sometimes. And the Bengals took advantage, and it seemed like Joe Burrow and the Bengals were back to being the Bengals that we know. It seemed like they were back. And it's a good thing. It's a good sign. Now, we'll see if they can continue to do it. This team is capable of being a top 5 team. But, they have to build up that resume. They have to start beating some of those really damn good teams. And we'll see if they can. Number 10. Seattle Seahawks don't move. Yeah, they did they did beat the Panthers pretty good. Although the Panthers were keeping it close the majority of the game. It's just the way the board fell. Seahawks are staying put at 10. Number 9. Detroit Lions move up 3 spots. All right, Jared Goff is playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. He's playing like a top 10, top 7 quarterback right now. He's playing really, really high level football. And by the offensive numbers that we've seen, that's what we're getting, And, some people would say he's not going under pressure. And once he plays a really good defense, they're going to struggle. The Falcons' defense is very good. The Falcons' defense is a very good defense. Now, maybe their secondary isn't incredible, but it's decent. They have a ball hawk in Jesse Bates. They have a very physical corner in A.J. Terrell. Their defensive line is one of the better ones in the league. They'll apply pressure all day long. And we've seen that. The Lions have a very good offensive line, but the Falcons were still putting pressure on Goff. And Goff has some good weapons to throw to. Ben Johnson just has his offense rolling. And the Lions move up to 9. Number 8, Baltimore Ravens. You take a bad loss there to the Colts. You were really beat up. You had a lot of your star players out: Ronnie Staley, OBJ, Marlon Humphrey. You had a lot of those guys out, but that's you're gonna be moved down regardless. At the end of the day, it's next man up, and you got to keep playing hard. And if you don't win, you're gonna lose. It's just as simple as that. You're not gonna get away with not having injuries. If you're beat up, and the Colts is a team that the Colts are a team that the Ravens should have beaten. But the Colts came in hungry, they came in hot, and they wanted to win more than they did. So the offensive line did not look good. They didn't have their starting center, and they were really beat up. But this is a Colts team that they still should have been able to beat. They kept them into the game. It seemed like early on in the game was going to go as we expected it to. It didn't. It didn't. And Matt Gay and the Colts, they found a way to get it done. Matt Gay had 4 50-yard field goals, 3 53-yarders, and 1 54-yarder. Including the walk-off, the game winner. The Colts should have never been in that position in the first place to win the football game. When Gardner Minshew stepped out of bounds, I thought that was game right there. No. And the Ravens should have ended it. Now, some people are going to blame the penalties. Yeah, but you know what? That game should have never been where it was in the first place. The Ravens should have had that game put away. And they have multiple times on offense to put it away in overtime as well. That fumble early on in the game, that changed the entire complexion of the game. It looked like the Ravens were about to go up, 14-0, 14-7, something like that. No. And the Ravens dropped down 2 spots to 8. Number 7, Dallas Cowboys. So I was going to move the Cowboys down 10, 11, 12 spots. When you lose to, at the time, was considered the worst team in football, the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, who they have at receiver. The offensive line is not very good. They could get pressure on the quarterback, which they did against Dak a little bit. And they got a few turnovers. But the Cowboys' resume is too good to knock them down too much. And yeah, the loss is very bad, and they really got beat up. They did lose Trayvon Diggs, and maybe that should, that kind of threw the team off, had the team off balance. But it doesn't matter. You're playing one of the worst teams in the NFL. If you're gonna blame just losing a cornerback and that's your loss, and that's why you lost, and you have more issues than just that cornerback. But it's week 3. It's early on. We see a lot of weird things happen. Like I said, as a Colts fan, last year the Colts beat the Chiefs in week 3, and the Colts just beat the Ravens. The Cardinals just beat the Cowboys. We've seen crazy things happen early on in the year. It's always week 3. You think you know who is who, but you get one last slap in the face. Yeah, no, that's not what you thought. But you just gotta keep strong with what you believe. I just couldn't move them down too much because the resume is there. They absolutely, they killed the Giants. They killed the Jets without Aaron Rodgers, and then they did struggle against the Cardinals, but they did dominate those other 2 games like they should have. So I refrained from moving them down too far, but if they don't get it going, then they're playing the Patriots this weekend. If they don't beat the Patriots, the Patriots have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're going to keep the game close. They're going to. I could see the Patriots pulling off the upset against the Cowboys this weekend because of the defense and the Patriots just playing sound football. We'll see. But the Cowboys moving down to 7 for now, 5 spots. Moving up 2 spots to number 6, the Cleveland Browns had a little hiccup against the Steelers, a divisional rival. Was it Sunday night? No, it was Monday Night Football in Arsenic Field. I believe that's what it is called, or Acrisure, something like that. Away, divisional game, tough game. Steelers have a very good defense, so it's understandable. And but having those 2 turnovers in that Steelers game really was why the Browns lost. But they really showed who they are versus the Titans. I think Deshaun Watson and this offense is starting to pick it up. I think Watson is starting to look like himself a little bit, running the ball, playing loose. He does make some very poor decisions. That one time he was in the middle of taking a sack and he throws it back to Elijah Moore, and it just makes no sense. Just take the sack there. So he does make some questionable decisions, but he's one of the best improvisers the game has. And as long as he continues to get better, he continues to return to his former self. I don't see the Browns. I don't see the Browns going anywhere anytime soon. We're 5 Buffalo Bills. They've really shown up. Since that Week 1 matchup, they've been the good old Buffalo Bills that we know. Josh Allen playing pretty well. They're being coached really well. Him, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, absolutely dominating the Washington Commanders. Well, what was it, 37-3? It wasn't even close. That was a game, going into. I'm like, hey, maybe the Commanders got a shot here. If they can get pressure on Josh Allen, maybe the Commanders can get him to make a few mistakes. If Sam Howell can do just enough. And it was early on in the game where the Commanders were driving a little bit, but they just ultimately couldn't punch it in. They making too many mistakes, and when you're playing with a better team, some of the better teams in the NFL, the big boys, that's what's going to happen. And the Commanders ran to the Bills, and the Bills are looking pretty good. That defense is playing at a very high level. The Bills looking very good currently. All right, top 4. Philadelphia Eagles move up 1 spot to 4. Now, that was the Eagles. Those were the Eagles that we were looking for. Those are the Eagles that we knew. I still have some doubts here and there. I still have, I'm still a little wary. But the thing I told myself about the Eagles is maybe they're not playing their best football. Maybe they're struggling with small things here and there. But they're still winning. And they're still winning at a high level. They just beat the Buccaneers in a way they should have. Jalen Hurts did make some really nice throws. It really impressed me. But I'm still seeing issues with Jalen Hurts. He did impress me throwing under pressure. But I heard he was sick and he had the flu in this game. For him having the flu, still playing the way he did, very impressed with him with that. I just want to continue to see him improve and this team improve as a whole. Considering they're winning football games the way they are and they're not at their peak, that's impressive. They're 3-0. They're 3-0. And, they played, who did they play? They played the Bucs. They played the Patriots. And they played, who else did they play? The Bucs, the Patriots, and the Vikings. So, are all those teams really great? I don't think it's necessarily good matchups for them. You've played 2 really good defenses, and then, the poor defense you did play, you ended up having your best rushing game. Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith ended up having their best games. So, the Eagles move up to 4. 3. The Kansas City Chiefs. Listen. The Chiefs are they found it. They picked it up versus the Bears. That was the get right game. That was the game that they needed to find themselves, to have that big offensive explosion, to get them their confidence. So the Chiefs move up 1-3. Number 2, I really contemplated moving them to number 1. You had the Miami Dolphins, where they put up 600 and some yards. Let me just look up to see what they did versus the Broncos. So Miami Dolphins versus Denver Broncos. Let's just look at some of the game stats. All right. Tua, 23 for 26, 309 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Devon Achane plays the first game of the year. This is a running back I liked. I really liked Achane coming out of A&M. I didn't hear a lot of other people talking about him, and I liked him. I liked Achane. I had him in my top 5. And first game he plays, wow. 18 carries, 203 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. And, in all, 726 offensive yards. And the defense has only gotten better. And you want to know what else is scary? The Dolphins just did all that without their second best receiver in Jalen Waddle. They did all of that without Jalen Waddle. That's scary. That is scary. And their defense has only gotten better since week 1. And Vic Fangio, he knows how to call defense. Only reason I didn't put him 1 is because there's no reason to move the Niners down from 1. The 49ers, they have dominated. They dominated the Giants. They did, they had a little hit, they struggled against the Rams a little bit, but ultimately towards the end of the game, they sealed it. They said, nope, not today. In week 1, they smoked the Steelers. And that offense had no issues against the Steelers defense, which is one of the better defenses in the NFL. In terms of playmaking, in terms of getting to the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback. I just don't see any reason to move the Niners down. The Dolphins have made their case to be 1. But the Niners have made their case on why they shouldn't be 1. On why they should be 1. They haven't... I'm trying to say it the right way. I don't know how to say it the right way, but you guys know what I mean. The Niners haven't given us any reason on why they shouldn't be 1. That's what I'm trying to get at. But these are my Week 4 power rankings. Heading to Week 4, Bears at 32, Broncos 31, Raiders 30, Panthers 29, Titans 28, Giants 27, Cardinals 26. I don't know why I'm going through them. You guys to see them. I'm not going to continue going through them. I don't know why I ended up doing that. But nonetheless, very crazy week. A lot less movement than we've had in the last couple of weeks in terms of not jumping too many big spots. We had quite a few teams jumping 10 spots, jumping 11 spots, or dropping 10. And, it's just how it goes early on in the season. There's a lot of movement. But I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see things solidify. The movement start to slow down. We're going to really get to know who the contenders and pretenders are. And that's all I got for you guys today. So thank you for tuning in to our Week 4 power rankings. Giving you these every single week. And if you enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. A great place to be. I promise you won't regret it. And that's all I got for you guys today. This is JDW Sports Talk Show. Signing off.